2 unsolved deaths tied to a secretive UFO society. A town terrorized by UFOs day in and day out, and a UFO crash with dozens of witnesses known as Brazil's own Roswell. Join us as we explore UFO and alien sightings across time in Brazil that are sometimes fatal in this episode of I'm Scared, but I Like It. Hello.
Hello. Hey.
Hey, we're coming from the wind.
We rode over from another dimension on the wind.
We're entities of the wind. Welcome to the podcast. We never, for the record, we never discuss how we're going to be opening an episode. I feel like most of the times just I start doing stuff. And Chloe's just like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this now.
Yeah, improv. That was all improv, guys. You're welcome. Yeah, I mean.
Thank you for yes-anding my my scene that I set for us. I'm Julianne. Hey, by the way, I'm Julianne.
Hey, I'm Chloe.
Yep, that is true. Welcome back. Or welcome here for the first time, depending on who you are. Chloe, what's good? What's new? I did want to ask you because I think last episode I told you about Channel Zero, and you told me that you started watching it. Mm-hmm. What do you think? You didn't answer when I asked you what you think of it.
Channel Zero was good. I only watched the first season so far. I'm 1/3 the way through season 2.
Okay.
Season 1. That was Mark Brandanowitz from Parks and Rec was in that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Mark Brandanowitz. I really liked it. It was a little more, my standard of gory is a lot lower than everyone else's. So, but for me, I'm very squeamish. So it was difficult in some points because it got a lot more violent towards the end. Yeah. But I thought the video part, and I don't want to spoil this for anyone who wants to go watch it, but all I'm going to say is the video, the TV part, the thing that flashes on the TV is so creepy and nostalgic and ugh.
It's very uneasy and weird, and they add some weird stuff. Had you heard of that particular creepypasta before, Candle Cove?
No.
Well, so I don't know who fucking did it. Whoever wrote this, like, really added a bunch of stuff to the story, but I will share briefly for you and for the audience. The Candle Cove creepypasta is just surrounding, like, it's just like kind of a fake online forum discussion where people are being like, hey, does anybody remember this show from like the 80s or something called Candle Cove? Oh, yeah, like I do. There's Percy the pirate. Like, oh, yeah. And then there's the scary Jawbone character. And everybody's like kind of reminiscing. Then they're like, somebody's like, oh, it's weird. I had this one weird dream where like I'm watching Candle Cove and it's just like Jawbone screaming. And it's just the most terrifying thing ever. He's just screaming and it's so unnerving. And then somebody else is like, that wasn't a dream. That was an episode. I saw that too. And then everybody else starts chiming in like, I saw that. And everybody's like, why was that aired for children? That's so weird. And then one of them, quote unquote, comes back after talking to a parent. And like, they're like, I asked my parent about if they remember anything about Candle Cove. And they're like, oh, is that imaginary show that you would watch when the TV was just on the static and you would just watch the static for hours? And then everybody's like, oh, fuck. What the fuck? What the fuck was going on? What were we watching? So that's the premise. That's like just a very brief creepypasta that the whole season is based on.
Okay, so it's kind of like a community-made story then.
Well,
Community built?
I think it's fake
Oh,
forum posts. Like I think it's
okay.
like one person created the users or something.
Oh, I love that though.
Yeah.
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 But if you guys like creepy stuff and you don't mind too much blood, I suppose.
To me, it's not that much blood.
Yeah, to me, I'm very squeamish. So if you're very squeamish, it might be a little hard. You might have to close your eyes sometimes.
There are a couple of scenes that
Yeah.
go there.
There's no shame in closing your eyes and not taking... You don't have to take that in. But the rest of the show is very worth watching. So, yeah, go watch it.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's very strange.
Yeah. The second season has to do with a dad figure. And so that was kind of triggering for me personally. So it's been a little...
I forgot
hard
about
getting
that.
through it,
Yeah.
but it is really good. Season 2 is also very good so far, which I need to continue.
Yes, we need to start that over here.
Yeah. What else is on there? Unsolved Mysteries came back on Netflix. Julianne, have you tried watching?
I watched like the initial reboot or whatever, but I didn't know that they came back or that they had paused or anything. I didn't watch very much.
Oh, season 3 is really good so far. Yeah, if you guys liked Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix and you didn't know it was back, it's back. It's really, really good episodes this season.
Hell yeah. Anything else?
Gosh, I don't know. I've been obsessively listening to the new Taylor Swift album, Midnights, because it's...
Oh, man. I don't like her.
I'm vibing with it. I love her.
I'm happy for you.
I've been a Swiftie forever. And I really don't like contemporary music all that much, like especially things that... like very popular artists, I just tend to not like it because it kind of sounds just, and maybe this is controversial to say, it just kind of sounds all the same to me after a while.
I think that's a very standard take. I don't think that's controversial.
Oh, okay.
At all.
Well, I don't want to offend anyone's music taste. It's just her Midnight's album is good, and it's been helping me through some stuff. So I wonder if any of you have been listening to it.
Same.
Not Julianne.
I haven't. Nope.
That's fine. So, Julianne, I hear word on the street is that you have an incredible episode lined up for us today. What the heck are we going to talk about today? The last episode you did was unhinged AF. We went right off the deep end. Where are you taking us today?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be similar vibes. It's going to be, we're going into the deep end for sure.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. But this time, so, previously, if you listen to the Mysterious Holes episode, I had a lot of fun. I really got in there. I let myself be free. I was a liberated woman for those for that hour and 20 minutes. But the truth is I don't know if I subscribe to Dr. Jan's totalism theory. I don't know if I believe in any of the holes. I was free, but I had to come back down to earth, right? This is a situation. The things I'm going to tell you today, I don't really know how to argue with them.
Oh my gosh. That's not in character for you at all. Like,
yeah.
Okay, if something is strange enough for Julianne to be like, oh God, this might be real, that's enough for me to be like, tell me more. Tell me more right now. What is this?
Yeah, I've not been in this position before.
Wow.
Really. Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
So today we're going to look at a smorgasbord of things. I'll preface this by saying, normally, I don't buy UFO sighting stories. I don't know what to do with them. My brain's immediate reaction is bullshit. I just don't buy it.
Wait, are we going to UFOs today? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, I shouldn't get too excited. I don't know what's... Okay.
No, you should. I think you should get excited.
Oh my God.
And I'll also preface this by saying that I am not like a scholarly ufologist. So like as I'm bringing forth different ideas and information, if there's anybody who's like a very in-depth ufologist and I'm like not saying like the full if I'm not capturing the full scope of something, like, I'm very sorry. I have a rudimentary knowledge of some of these things and I'm trying my best. I'm becoming a new person. So just support me in my transformation.
If you are a scholarly ufologist, will you come on our show and let us interview you?
Please.
Because, you know, if we're wrong about something, come tell us why. I would love to hear from you.
We want to know.
Yeah. We want to know what you know. I'm excited. Let's get it.
This initially was just, I wanted to look at the lead masks case, which I know Chloe doesn't know about. And I will still be talking about the lead masks case. There's just not a huge amount of, like, quote unquote legitimate information about it. So it led me to kind of look at some other stuff going on in the area. And that's when I was just, like, completely overwhelmed by a huge amount of information that I don't know how to refute or dispute. I don't know which word is correct.
Oh my God.
So today we're going to be looking at some very strange UFO incidents in Brazil.
Oh my God. Julianne, you don't know how grateful I am for you. Like, it feels like Christmas right now.
I hope you don't know about
my
these.
Favorite
I hope
thing.
These are new. We might run into some overlap here.
No, it's fine. I'd love to hear it all over again. I'd love it. I probably don't know everything. So let's go. I'm excited.
Great. Okay, great. Yeah. So what's interesting about these stories, they're really incredible stories that have a lot of witnesses. And as I said, normally I have a strong aversion to UFO stories in general and that kind of stuff. I just don't buy it. Or I have a hard time imagining that, like, a person's lens isn't kind of like rewriting what they experienced. But today we have some cases that I am just stumped by. Like, I'm having a hard time taking the accounts and arguing against them. So let's get started. In addition to the lead masks case, I'm going to be talking about some incidents in Brazil that span across time from, like, the 70s all the way through the 90s. And we'll specifically be focusing on Colares and Varginha.
Ooh.
These are two places in Brazil. And excuse me, I don't know how to speak Portuguese. I've tried my best to look up how to pronounce things, but I'm definitely going to get things wrong. Have you heard of either of those places?
No, I have not.
Yes, dude. Yes. You're gonna fucking love this shit. You're gonna love it. So what drew me in initially to this whole Brazilian alien hubbub was actually an unsolved murder. It is kind of similar to the Somerton Man murder, the Somerton Man case. If you haven't heard of that, how about you go check out episode 2 of the I'm Scared But I Like It podcast. We talk all about it. So it's similar. It is episode 2, right? I think.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So it's similar in that we have a highly unusual circumstance surrounding 2 deaths this time, and no cause of death was ever really determined. A major difference is that we do know who the men are. So in 1966, Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana, 2 electrical engineers who worked closely together installing, like, big, like, antenna stuff on hills and buildings. They left home telling their wives that they were going to go buy a car and some equipment in Rio, but that is absolutely not where they went or what they did. They actually went to Niterói, a different area, and they were found on the top of a hill called Morro do Vintém. So they're conflicting stories. I'm going to try to parse out what might be rightish. The problem is there are 2 different kind of major sources for this, and both of them are just guys recounting information that they got from elsewhere, but not necessarily citing all of the information. Like, even Wikipedia, if you go to Wikipedia to look at the information, you'll see their references are like Flying Saucer Review. And it's like, can I get a newspaper, guys? Like, can I, like, other than the Flying Saucer Review, please? So I tried to parse out what's most accurate. There was either a boy or a young man flying a kite on this hill, and that's when he stumbled upon 2 bodies who happened to be Manuel and Miguel. And these bodies, they were sitting next to each other or lying next to each other, and they were partly covered by grass. They were wearing formal suits, and they were also wearing raincoats, matching raincoats. And one of the strangest things about them is they had these very strange lead eye masks over their eyes.
Lead.
Imagine just like a crude cutout of like a sunglasses shape out of a sheet of metal. There's black lead resting over their eyes, both of them.
What?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, and in addition to that, they had towels with them. They had an empty water bottle, and they also had a small notebook that had some cryptic instructions written on it. 1630, that's time. We're talking military time. So that's what, 4:30? Be at the specified location. 1830, ingest capsules. After the effect is produced, protect half of the face with lead masks. Wait for the prearranged signal.
Signal from who?
Great
from
question.
What?
Great question.
You know, I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there who hear this and immediately think aliens.
Yeah. And that's
because what in the world?
Yeah,
lead
and that's
masks?
Good. Your gut always says aliens, and it's right once again.
It's always aliens, and then doppelganger second.
Yes.
I don't know what the third one is yet, but it's always UFOs, aliens, doppelgangers. Yeah, doppelgangers hasn't made it yet. Yeah, but oh my God.
So
okay.
Another weird thing about this is that there were no signs of trauma or violence, no evidence of a struggle. So, what the fuck? And
how did they pass?
They don't know. The thing is like first of all, they were found like 3 days after they died, and apparently they were decomposing, and for that reason or for some other reason, they like didn't do a toxicology thing. My guess is, I mean, ingesting I don't know how to pronounce that word. Capsules. I always say it differently in the hopes that one time I'll be right. So the fact that the instruction said to ingest capsules is like, presumably they were poisoned themselves for some reason, right?
Okay.
And I will give you a little more information about them. In Viana, in Miguel's workshop, there were remnants of the lead. So like they made the masks. They were homemade. Okay. And also there was a book on scientific spiritualism, which allegedly, again, I don't know who the fuck is saying this. They don't cite what the book is, but it says, which mentioned masks, intense luminosity, and accompanying spirits. And apparently this comes from a newspaper article. Again, I couldn't tell you which one. Miguel had told his sister a day or two before the incident that he would soon be carrying out an important mission, and that it was a secret. And apparently he said to other people like that soon he would know whether or not he believes in the paranormal or spiritualism or whatever. There's some sort of idea or rumor that there were a lot of electrical technicians really involved in some sort of underground spiritual group that was like invested in the idea of making contact with aliens. But it's like, it's hard to know exactly if that's true, because it's like, we haven't heard of other people.
Wait, with aliens or ghosts, like spiritual? Because when I hear spirituality, I think of like spirits, like ghosts. I
think the line might be a little bit blurred, but from what I've read specifically about this case, they were interested in UFOs and extraterrestrials.
So,
okay. And I think the spiritualism part had something to do with like alchemy, maybe, as well. So it's possible they were like, because they also had another sheet of paper that had some like rudimentary, like scientific, like electrical equation. It's very possible if they're capsules and they're maybe doing some sort of alchemical something or other with different elements, lead, whatever, like they may have had some sort of occult idea of how to make some sort of extraterrestrial or interdimensional something or other happen. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. We do know that the masks were from them.
Yes, they made and brought the masks.
Okay, so I was thinking originally, oh gosh, the aliens made the masks.
It could have been, if it's true that they were awaiting some sort of extraterrestrial contact and they were concerned about lights and stuff, maybe they were protecting themselves or something.
Yeah. Capsules is interesting. Like, to swallow something. I wonder what the logic was there.
Yeah. The question I have is, were those instructions given to them by somebody else? Did somebody have some sort of higher authority or claim to have some sort of information on how to make this happen, and they told them what to do? Or did they come up with this plan on their own? You know what I mean? It's weird because it's phrased in such a way that it sounds like marching orders. Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah.
It does. It seems very, what you said, like very military-esque. Yeah. I don't think that's a word. But, you know, it sounds very down to business. Like they had a mission when they went up there. They
Definitely
had an intent.
They did.
And what it sounds like is to connect with something, these beings or some sort of craft, or God, that is just so bizarre.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, there was a guy named Eliseo Gomez. And again, this is, we're in the territory of murky reporting here.
Okay.
But police arrested a man named Eliseo Gomez, who was their friend. But then they let him go. He made contradictory statements, apparently. So the reason why he got arrested initially is one of the widows, like, told the police that they got in an argument, Gomez, with them or whatever. So like, oh, maybe it's him, or I guess, I don't know. That's what that's how it's presented. But Gomez claimed that he and Miguel and Manuel were members, again, of that secret, like, scientific spiritualist society, and they would attend seances, and they would do all these, like, electronic experiments, hoping to communicate with beings on Mars.
Whoa.
And they worked on, like, bombs and just weird experiments and stuff. So it's odd if true. And I want to know more about the society.
It's a very unique hobby.
It is.
Side project.
Different strokes.
Just different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
It's just too bad that ended in their demise. That's very sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just like, is there actually a group? Is that true? Yeah. And if so, is there somebody who caused this to happen in some way, like misleading them?
It definitely does sound culty.
Doesn't it? It really does.
It has some culty vibes, but
I'll tell you another little piece of information that I am finding right now so I don't get it wrong.
Okay. You're just going to throw the wrench in all of our conclusions.
It's just a little tiny piece of information. This part I don't know if I buy.
Okay.
Because this information came out after the information of the bodies being found. But on August 17th, 1966, which is the day that they went up the hill, there was a lady named Senora Gracinda Barbosa Coutinho da Sousa from that area who claims that she saw a UFO. She claims that she saw a UFO and that she had been driving with her kids and that they all saw, and I quote a translation. I'm not going to say it in Portuguese. An oval-shaped object of an orangey color with a band of fire around its edges, hanging over the top of a hill and sending out rays in all directions. They stopped the car and they watched the object move up and down vertically for 4 minutes. And then presumably it left. And that hill was Morro do Vintém, which is where the bodies were found. So, you know, when she got home, she told her husband about it, and he drove over there. He didn't see anything. But then a few days later, he told the police after he read about this in the paper. So I mean, it's hard to necessarily take that one as pure truth. If it had been reported like the same day, that's interesting.
Holy guacamole. I don't care. That just
You love it.
excites me.
I understand.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, the description of that flying object is unique to other UFO reports that I've heard about in my day. In my day, I've heard about shiny UFOs, usually metallic or chrome-like with lights around the side. Some people, there's like different shapes. There's like some orby spherical ones. There's like ones that are shaped more like a pill, like very cylindrical. And then there's like the classic one that we think about. But fire coming out of the sides, I mean, that could just be very, very bright orangey lights. And orangey lights, I mean, it's just interesting that she said fire, though. That seems... Yeah,
it is interesting.
Usually fire in space is not great. Or like fire coming out of your...
It's great news that they had those lead masks to cover their eyes from the fire.
Yeah, sure. But, I wonder if from afar, those very bright orangey lights kind of looked like fire.
Sure.
Maybe the UFO appeared orangey because of those orangey lights, like that refracted light.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my best support of that story. But yeah, I can't really see it having fire coming out of it. But if that story is true, that is bizarre.
Yeah.
Especially if they're saying that they saw it on the same day. Or night. The timing was very similar. But okay, I have a question for you. Did these two men ever get an autopsy? Was there ever an autopsy done?
Yeah, they did have an autopsy weeks later. And because it was weeks later, they didn't do a search for toxic substances because the coroner was busy.
Oh, come on.
The internal organs of the two victims were too badly decomposed for reliable testing. So, great, everyone.
Well, that would have been probably the first place to go because in their journal it said they were going to swallow some stuff. Okay.
Yeah. I know. It's very frustrating. And so I almost didn't do this topic because I was just like I like the story a lot. I think it's really interesting, but it's just like, it feels like there's not enough like meat to it. Like I don't have enough Angel Fire websites to dig into. But that's when I started learning more about UFO activity in Brazil.
Oh.
And it's just so crazy. I just went down this rabbit hole. And I have a lot to share with you.
Tell me more right now.
So, as I said, it's a smorgasbord. So, I have titled this section The Appetizers.
Whoa.
The main course.
Whoa.
These are the appetizers.
Okay.
These are a couple little tidbits. They're not full. These are the things where I'm like not fully convinced before we lead up to like me getting completely there with everyone else.
Makes sense.
All
I'm
my
ready.
ufologist siblings. We're going to ease in. So the main kind of crazy UFO activity that we'll be talking about today is between like the 60s and like the 90s. But I did come across a story from 1946, which I just wanted to put in here because it's fucking wicked. It's fucking gnarly, dude.
In the appetizers?
Yeah, we're starting. Well, just because I don't know if this one's even true. But I just think it's gnarly, so I wanted to share it. And maybe, if it is true, stuff's been going on for longer than we thought. Chloe's like, I've thought this has been going on forever, so I don't really know what you're talking about. So we're in names territory. Names are harder for me to look up pronunciation than locations. So bear with me. 1946, there are two dudes. Okay. We have, God help me.
It always starts with two dudes.
It always starts with two dudes. J-O-A with a tilde over it. Oh. Joao. I don't know what to do with a tilde over an A, and I'm very sorry. Prestes Filho and his friend Salvador dos Santos. So
You're doing a great job. Don't worry.
okay.
Yeah, you're doing your best, and we can all clearly see it.
Zhao. So Zhao and Salvador. I'm sorry.
Aren't J's pronounced as H?
No.
Or is that Spanish?
Not always. I think that's in Spanish because some of the names I
Okay.
do know how to pronounce, and they told me to pronounce it with just a J.
Oh, boy.
Like, I think Januncio shows up. Well, that's a later story.
Okay, anyway.
I'm sorry. They were coming home from a fishing trip. They're going back home to the village, and they're like, okay, great fishing out there. I'll see you later, my guy. And they're like, oh my God, like, this was so good. Like, thank you so much for going fishing with me. I loved it. I'm so excited to link up later. You know, like, have a great night. That's how I imagine guys talk to each other.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I've never seen it happen. I don't know. Guys in isolation speaking to each other. It's kind of like the quantum physics Schrodinger's cat, right? Or something. Or double slit experiment. Mm-hmm. I can't perceive it. Anyway. So it's 7 p.m. Okay, actually, we're not going to call him Joao. We're going to call him Prestes because he's referred to as Prestes, so I feel like I can call him that too.
Okay.
Okay. So Prestes shows up at his sister's house, and he recounts what happened on the way home. And within like the span of an hour, he says that a beam of light hit him when he was approaching the front door, and it stunned and blinded him.
Whoa.
And he fell, but he didn't lose consciousness. And so he got up and he's like trying to get to the house. And apparently, allegedly, that same night when he's there with his sister, his condition just deteriorates like really fucking fast. And the stories tell that his flesh is like detaching itself from his bones. It's disgusting. And they like, it's like he like got boiled, you know, it's like he got burnt and like his skin and the tissue is just like coming off. I know, it's disgusting. It's so fucking gnarly, so I had to tell you. But he wasn't in pain. It said that he wasn't in pain. He was just fucking scared.
How?
He was scared and he didn't like it, but he was not in pain.
If your flesh is coming off your bones and you're not in pain,
something's wrong.
I don't understand. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah. So
but you're not. What?
He loses his ability to speak, and everyone's like trying to get him in a cart to take him to the hospital. But unfortunately, he dies like on the way there. So like 6 hours have passed, he dies. And he was conscious the whole time, apparently. And he looked completely decomposed by the end of it. And they just buried him, and a police investigation didn't really find anything, and there was nothing unusual found near his house.
But this was a real case, supposedly?
Allegedly. Yes. Allegedly, like, I mean, there's like a death certificate where there wasn't a like doctor signing it, but whoever was there said it was burns that caused him to die. And it's just like, I don't know, like if I'm trying to stay practical, it's like, did he get hit by lightning? But it's like, I've never heard a story quite like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think getting hit by lightning
makes you decompose
unfurls
instantly.
The flesh from your bones and then makes you decompose.
I guess I don't know.
Right. Well, I don't think so.
Yeah. So that's just kind of a weird initial story. And remember those beams of light, okay? They're gonna come back.
Okay,
that's
beams
just an
of
appetizer.
light.
Beams of light.
And
the other guy's fine. Salvador's fine.
Oh yeah, there was a second guy.
Yeah, there were two dudes, but he's vibing. He just enjoyed the fishing trip and gets to survive. I don't know.
Oh, that's so grim. Okay,
that one's grim. This one's slightly less grim in that he doesn't die, but he's not happy.
Oh no.
So, this is a story from 1979. Okay, we're back in our beautiful little pocket of alien activity. And his name is Januncio or Hanuncio or something. I'm sorry. I'm going to say Januncio. I'm sorry, okay? Get off my back.
No one's on your back. If anyone's on Julianne's back, jump off right now. Stop it.
Get off. Get out of here.
Can't you see she's doing her best right now?
I'm trying.
God. Okay.
Okay.
Carry on.
So we've got another guy on a walk. He's by himself. I guess the other guy was by himself too, wasn't he? So never going to walk by yourself in Brazil, apparently. It's 8 o'clock.
Moral of the story.
Moral of the story. He's doing a 2-mile walk home.
Oh, that's a long walk.
Just casual stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. So he lights a cigarette, and then apparently, quote unquote, less than 50 steps after that, good memory, Julianne, something large and dark appears over his head. He says, as if the match was a beacon, but I think that's probably just kind of a poetic addition. I don't know if it was the cigarette's fault.
So far, you know who this guy reminds me of?
Who?
Our friend from that desolate places in Canada. What's his name? Guy who wrote that very dramatic book about the Isle of Demons.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Francis.
Francis. How could I forget?
Francis, yeah.
This guy has very like Francis vibes. If you don't know what we're talking about, go back to episode 4 of Hidden Beasts in Desolate Northeastern Canada.
I will say it's hard for me to tell sometimes how much of this is quotes from people and how much of it is like the author who compiled the story. I can tell sometimes, but not all the time. So anyway, this part's a quote, so I'll just read what he says word for word. It was only about 3 meters above me. I didn't see it coming, and it didn't make a sound. It was just there. Again, his quotes, his words. He described it as looking like a big silo, which is interesting. It was at least 25 feet tall and had a round bottom 12 to 15 feet in diameter. This is not a description of a UFO I've really heard before, where it's like cylindrical but like tall. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Usually they're more horizontal.
Exactly.
If they're going to be cylindrical.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll keep reading his words. This is where he starts to lose me just because... I'll just read it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
A door opened on the bottom, and I could see a man and a woman sitting in seats like a car. They were sitting still, alive, but very still and stiff. They never moved. The woman looked like she was wearing a dress. Question mark? Okay, guy. When the door opened, a lot of light came out, and I felt like I was being pulled up into the object. It was like a magnet. This is where it gets interesting for me. I grabbed a small palm tree and wrapped my arms and legs around it. The light was very hot, and I was terrified. He says, well, he doesn't say this, but apparently he was gripping onto this tree, and the UFO was trying to, like, drag him in, and he was dragged up the trunk until his feet left the ground. And then the gravity pulled him back down. Like, it wasn't strong enough to actually like fully yank him away. And this happened 5 times, up and down, again and again. And he said that his chest was scraped raw against this tree. So he starts crying. He thinks he's about to die. And he said, then when the man and woman, again, why you gotta call it a man and a woman? Like, that's probably not what's going on. Then when the man and the woman saw I wasn't going to let go, they dropped something like hot oil on me to make me let go of the tree. I felt like I was between 2 big fires. I couldn't move. It burned my arms and hurt very much, but I was too afraid to let go. I almost died. I was so scared. And he said, it lasted less than 2 minutes. If it lasted any longer, I believe I would have died because it was so very hot. When I wouldn't let go, they closed the door, the light went out, and the thing went away real fast like lightning. Went straight up into the sky and disappeared. And he never heard a sound during any of that.
Oh, wow. Maybe the description of the man and the woman, maybe he didn't mean human. It seemed...
Yeah.
It seemed more feminine or masculine, like the beings in that thing, whatever it was.
Yeah. And we will be discussing some ideas around what that could mean later. Again,
there's not a lot of these UFO stories really confuse me sometimes because half of them I hear are very peaceful, very loving, very helpful, more like curious nature. And then the other half of the stories are like, they abducted me, they experimented, they did things. That's just so bizarre. That's so bizarre. If that's true, that is horrifying.
And I will say most of the story, there's so many fucking stories in Brazil like this. Like most of them are not friendly. Most of them are violent and some of them are fatal.
That's
which
very
is
unique.
Frightening. Yeah.
It's very unique. And why is it all just concentrated right in this one area in South America?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Why are the UFOs or these alleged extraterrestrials more violent down south? Why?
It's really weird. It's really, I mean, now that I'm a budding ufologist, I'll obviously have to look at the data and see if that pattern is actually true, or if the violence kind of is pervasive across locations. I'll get back to you guys after I compile my spreadsheet.
We might have to join MUFON at some point. Yeah, we definitely. Really it's leading to that. I feel it.
We're getting close.
We're getting close, yeah.
Yeah, but apparently, he was really scratched up and he was kind of burnt up too, like on his arms, and he had a really bad headache for 2 days afterwards. And he is very scared of this, and he claims that everyone has seen the light. I don't know who everyone is, but I don't know. He claims that other people have seen this, other people are scared, and apparently he's so scared that he just like does not go out at night anymore, period.
Oh, that's really sad.
It is really sad.
The detail about the headache is interesting because there's another story that I heard recently about a UFO encounter where the person the next day after encountering this thing got this massive migraine that they've never had before in their life, but it was just this terrible headache. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should keep that in mind.
We'll keep that in mind. We'll keep the silo in mind, and we'll keep the light in mind, okay?
Okay, the silo. Okay.
So we're moving on to our first course of our 2 course. I don't really know what meal the lead masks was. It was like salad. Lead masks was salad, and then we had appetizers, and now we have 2 courses. Or maybe Varginha will be the dessert. It doesn't matter. So we're moving now into the territory of multiple witnesses. Not just a guy saying a thing, but multiple people saying the same thing.
I love how you organized all this where we're like leveling up. It's like, okay, so you thought that was crazy? Okay, just wait.
Just wait.
Okay.
Just fucking wait.
I'm excited. Okay, tell me more.
So we'll start with Colares, which is, it's technically an island, but we keep coming across these islands that are like so close to the land that we're like, wait, like, does that even count? And this one, when I first look at the map, it just looks like part of Brazil. It's part of like the opening of the Amazon River. But
oh, wow, over there. Okay.
Yeah, but there's like a river or a couple rivers like around the other edge that isn't against the ocean. So it like technically makes it an island. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. So some people call it an island, some people don't. So I was very confused. But this is a very, very strange case that went on from July to September 1977, where a whole town was terrorized. And everyone who lived there was involved. And what are they called? Not the Navy, but I guess just the Brazilian military even got involved. It's a team from the Brazilian Air Force arrived in early October and kind of stationed there for quite a while to figure out what was going on.
Whoa.
Yeah. So Colares, what was reported by the people who lived there was that every night UFOs would appear. They would come from the north. So that the north would be like from the ocean area. And sometimes they would fly from the sky. Sometimes they would emerge from the ocean.
Oh, okay, which we love. God.
You know we love.
You know we love a USO.
Yes.
Oh.
And this expanded outside of Colares as well. Like, just kind of the general area was affected by this as well. It's just like this was where it was most kind of impacted. So these UFOs are, what are they called now? UAPs, whatever they are. They would
whatever,
I don't know.
Yeah.
They would be hovering over the islands at a low altitude, and they would like circle and make loops, and they would start to descend, and then they would leave. Like, they would accelerate, and then sometimes they would hover over houses, and they would do light beam stuff. And it was happening every evening for months, allegedly.
Now, this is a lot more on par with so many stories that I've heard that seem more legit. Like, obviously that's for another episode, but this seems a lot. I'm more excited about this, is what I'll say.
Yeah. And
okay.
what really kind of got my attention is the amount of panic that was going on the island. Like, people left in droves. Like, sheriffs left. People abandoned their posts. They went to the mainland. Like, they weren't willing to deal with this. It reached a point where, like, fishermen weren't going out at night, right? And people weren't working, and people were gone. And they started running out of food to eat. Like, because, you know, a lot of stuff would come from the mainland or would be fished, and they just wouldn't have food. And people would stay awake all night drinking coffee, and they would try to chase away these flying objects. Like, they would set off fireworks, and they would like run out with like pots and pans to try to chase them off. Like, it was a united effort to deal with these.
Okay, so when I hear that, I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, these people were really, really experiencing something. They were scared. Yeah. Like, there was obviously fear because people fled. They were like, okay, bye. You know, we're not staying around, especially if you have kids. It's like, no, we're out of here. But then you're always going to have those town heroes who are like, no, this is my home. Territory. Yeah, this is my home. Who the heck are you? Get all your pots, get all your pans. Do we have fireworks? Get them.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that sounds very psychologically, human behaviorally on point.
Yeah.
You know, if something was really there that felt like a threat, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I'll say, and this is kind of both supporting and not supporting it, I guess. But, you know, I live in Minneapolis, and I was here in 2020 during the George Floyd uprising. And it was a really scary time, like, because not only were people rioting, and people like told us that we were crazy at the time for believing this, but there were people coming from outside of the city who had nefarious things that they wanted to do. Like, there were white nationalist groups coming in and wreaking havoc under, kind of trying to fly under the radar of the riots that were happening. And I literally had to do like overnight vigils, right? Like, I had to stay up all night to make sure that the house wasn't going to get set on fire. And we heard a lot of weird stuff. There was weird stuff happening on our street, and I had to like coordinate like setting off car alarms to try to scare people away. And we have weird footage of like people getting up to shit, like, and crazy, insane fireworks stuff at night.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I will say that like that fear is real, and people tried to tell us that we were just being paranoid, but it was confirmed later that like Proud Boys and, you know, like white nationalist groups were actually doing this. Like, that was not fake. But at the same time, I will also say that in engaging in overnight vigils, I lost my shit really fucking fast.
Sure, sure, of course.
I cracked really fucking fast. So that's just to say that like people can also amp themselves up a lot, and also you can break really quick without sleep. So
yeah,
it can go either way.
No, that's
I've
so
presented
true. Yeah.
nothing to confirm or deny anything.
No, that's a good point, because I think when you're in that state of stress and like obviously your body was in a state of, like the cortisol is rushing, the adrenaline is there. It was crazy,
just like, survival mode.
Survival mode, that's exactly what it is, yeah. Because there's a real challenge that is present that you have to deal with. And so your instincts are like, they're heightened.
You're on. Yeah.
You're on. Yeah. But lack of sleep and that kind of feeling of paranoia, even though, you know, paranoia sounds like really, it has a lot of stigma to it, but what I mean by paranoia is like, there's a real situation happening and you have to be on your toes.
Yeah. You have to listen to everything.
Right. So that kind of, I can imagine, as you said, like that state of mind can kind of put you on edge, like more than usual, and make things feel a lot crazier than, although it was very crazy. So yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll explain a little bit about what these people went through.
Okay.
Because at least 40 people got injured during this time.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the stories were typically the same, where they would be like resting in a hammock or whatever, and a light beam would hit them from above. Remember the light beams? We're back at the light beams.
No.
Yep. And they would become immobilized, like not able to move. And they always say it's like a white color, 3 inches, like not a big beam.
Oh.
And
okay.
And I don't know, this is where I heard conflicting stuff as well. Some people said that like light beams would kind of like search around for stuff, but then like Jacques Vallée's account, for examul, says, I read a lot of books, said that it didn't hunt for them, but would just hit them like out of nowhere, and they would try to scream, but they couldn't. And their eyes were open, they were fully conscious, and it would just feel hot. It would feel like a burning. But then after a couple of minutes, it would disappear. And what would be left behind, also, it typically was happening like on the chest area, I think maybe the neck as well, like chest neck area, and pinpricks would be left behind in the burns, which is strange to me. So yeah, it said discoloration would appear immediately and body hair would fall out later.
Are there any photos of these injuries?
I don't think so. It's interesting because like some people say that there are like 500 plus photos of stuff and like there's video and stuff, but I don't know if it's all like locked up or whatever. You know what I mean? I tried looking up the like UFO images. I didn't really see anything. I didn't find any photos really. Yeah, no, I don't see any burn photos. But there was an interview done of the doctor who was there at the time, who saw these people. So I'll tell you what she said. She was 24 at the time. Imagine being fucking 24 and you're like, I'm a doctor, I guess. And then all of a sudden your island is like a fucking alien terror site and you're dealing with these things you've never seen before. Like,
Wait, before you quote her, I'm thinking, okay, you said that this little island was sort of at the beginning of the Amazon or like near it.
Yeah.
A little isolated. So maybe that could explain the lack of photographic evidence or something. Maybe it was just more of a like a remote area.
It wasn't like tribal. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think it was just like a small fishing village. And I think you're right in that it probably wasn't super technologically advanced. But the thing is that the military moved in after and they were recording stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
maybe that's where all the footage is.
That's probably where it all is.
All locked up with the military. It's like, none your business. Yeah. Sorry, no.
Oh, I forgot to mention that they referred to these UFOs as chupa chupas, which is very cute, but it means like suckers, like sucks. Because they thought that it was like sucking the blood out of them. Yeah.
Oh, God. Mm-hmm. God, that took a turn real quick.
Yeah, there are a couple little notes that I took. So I guess I'll just say that apparently on the Amazon, near the mouth of the Amazon, there were smaller villages as well that would experience like weird light stuff, like lights coming out of the river. And they'd be fishing at night and they'd be like, oh no, like it's coming, like the thing, it's coming. And they would like get out of there because like a light would be about to like come out of the fucking river.
Oh, that is so creepy. I haven't heard of it in rivers. That is so creepy. Whoa, that's so creepy.
Concerning.
That's concerning. Yeah, that's a good word for it. That's concerning. What did the doctor say?
Yeah, the doctor. We're going back to the doctor. So the doctor, initially she didn't buy like any of this. She was like, this is all bullshit. And she would say like it was like hallucinations or people being drunk or whatever. But they would all these patients who reported this had similar symptoms. I will list them for you now. Weakness / trouble walking, dizziness and headaches, local losses of sensitivity, numbness and trembling, pallid complexion, low arterial pressure, anemia with low hemoglobin levels, blackened skin where the light had hit with several red-purple circles, hot and painful, 1 inch to 1¼ inches in diameter, 2 puncture marks inside the red circles resembling mosquito bites, hard to the touch. Hair in the blackened area fell out and did not rejuvenate as if follicles had been destroyed. And this is weird to list as a symptom. No nausea or diarrhea. That's an anti-symptom.
Well, I mean, that's probably really good information
Notable
to compare to other cases.
Yeah. So she didn't really have like access to really complicated tests, but she could see a drop in red blood cells across everybody. So it's very weird. And she also had her own motherfucking sighting. She saw one too, she says.
Oh.
Yep. So she said apparently a UFO appeared and flew very low. And she was the only one who stayed on the street. Everyone yelled at her to run, but she stayed. And it was like 200 meters from the beach. And she was just too fascinated. Like she just really wanted to see it, which is a mood. I feel like you and I might do this as well.
I'm like, this is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Julianne's dream.
Yeah.
To make contact.
Her perception was that it was going to land. Like it was getting low enough that it was going to land. But then villagers came out and they started shooting at it and throwing stones at it. Like they were on their vigilante shit trying to chase it away. Right.
Right.
But then the military team showed up. They're like, no. Like, stop. Don't do that. And everyone was really scared. And she said, this is another weird part. I don't like this part. But she said, many people said they could see people in UFOs like me with blonde hair. Many people said this. They said I was like the extraterrestrials. I was the only woman there with blonde hair. What? No. So the UFO circled and made rings in the sky. And she said it was very, very beautiful. And she was just like completely transfixed by the UFO.
How could they see blonde people in the UFO?
I don't know. It's just the same. Remember the fucking guy who got grabbed by the thing? He also sighted like a lady, like a lady in the thing. And it's like, this part I don't like. I don't know.
It gives me the chills. But then I'm also thinking weird. Like, so what
was happening?
Are there just like a bunch of like extraterrestrials that take on the appearance of blonde women and then they're just flying around scaring the shit out of people?
That's something that some of these ufologist people say, where it's like what you see. I think Jacques Vallée probably says this. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, scholarly ufologists out there, but I think he or other people say that like what you experience in a UFO sighting or an abduction is like a projection from yourself, right? Or of yourself, where it's like, not that you see yourself, but it's like, whatever this may be it aliens or something from another dimension that we don't understand, in order to make sense to our minds, it takes, or our minds just generate in order to cope with this, like whatever experience makes the most sense to us or has something to do with us, something that resonates with us or the collective unconscious or whatever. So that's one explanation why some people have these horrific, like violent abduction stories, why some people have these lovey-dovey, like everyone's connected, beautiful moments. It's like our experience depends on ourself. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I don't know if
you
I
don't
agree.
Subscribe.
I don't know if I agree to that.
Yeah.
I mean, our minds can be tricky. They can fill in the blanks quite often. Yeah. But I don't think it goes that far where who you are and where you are in life is going to determine how you experience a extraterrestrial. Like, I think your experience is just going to be, what the fuck happened to you? Like, I don't know. Like, and that just seems
I think the
strange.
implication of it relies on it not just being aliens in a spaceship. I think this theory only, like, it necessarily requires the phenomenon to be something different. It requires it to be something intra-dimensional or something that is outside of the realm of what we're able to even like comprehend. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's some studies in psychology, and I'm saying this very, very lightly because I have to look into it more, but there are studies about, you know, why do some people experience like, or say that they've experienced UFO abductions or home invasions or whatever, especially when they're sleeping. And a lot of that has supposedly been linked to trauma. Or like sometimes like something really horrible could happen that is very natural and human that we just really reject, and that, you know, an alien abduction story or you know, our brains will just give us something else a lot more manageable, copable, believable, copable than the horrific real thing that did happen. That's why abduction stories, I think when there's an abduction story, especially when someone's sleeping, I tend to be a little more on the fence about those. Because it could very much be linked to trauma.
Agreed.
And real life experiences. But if you take the case of like Travis Walton, for example, and I will definitely be doing an episode on him in the future, because I think that is an incredible case. But I mean, if you take someone like Travis Walton, who was with his buddies out in the middle of the forest and got abducted in the forest while they're like driving out from like a job, like he wasn't asleep, he wasn't sleepy. They all saw him disappear like
what?
And then this is a very interesting case as well. Anyway, you know, those are the kind of abduction stories where I find them a lot more interesting and believable. Like, okay, maybe something did happen there.
Humans are so fallible, which is what's, you know, beautiful about us, but also makes some of our stories a little make-believe sometimes. Reasonably so sometimes.
I really believe you have to take it case by case. You just have to. You have to take it situation by situation. Sometimes you're going to get something that's purely psychological. Sometimes you're going to get something that's purely unexplainable.
Yeah. We'll close out Colares with just a brief mention of Operation Prato and Captain/Colonel Uirange. I don't know which one's higher than the other. I know at one point he was both. So he's one of the guys who led one of these military groups in the area. And the thing that's interesting about him is that maybe 2 decades after the incident, he decided to come out with his experience, which he was not able to reveal at the time. And, you know, the government kind of closed the Colares case by just saying like, nothing happened. Nothing unusual here. That was their like stamped done kind of announcement. But his story is different in that he saw an object right at the beginning of the operation. At first, he just saw strange lights, but he didn't really think anything of it. But he says that he saw, again, a barrel-shaped light thing. And like, I think how he said it was that during the sighting, all that they saw was light. But then when the film was processed is when he was able to see that it was barrel-shaped, which is similar to the silo shape that we discussed on the tree.
Which all falls into the cylindrical.
Yep, it all fits.
Category.
And I want to bring him up. There's an interview of his that I will put in the show description. It's very interesting. And 3 months after he did this interview with this ufologist, he committed suicide.
Oh
yeah.
No.
Yeah. So it's like, what happened? Why
was he being harassed?
It's hard to like
set up to look like a suicide?
Yeah. There are a lot of questions about why that would happen so soon after. It could just be, it could just be like living with this is too much. Sure. But it's like, if you weren't allowed to talk about this and you talked about it, I don't know, fucked up.
That's very suspicious.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, poor dude.
Yeah. Sorry, Colonel. I think he was a colonel.
Oh.
Yeah. His interview, I only watched part of his interview. I'm going to watch the rest of it later because I only discovered it kind of at the tail end of doing all this stuff. But, I mean, he seems just kind of very bright and confident. So check it out. So now we are going to move into Varginha. And this is where I am stumped. I'm stumped. I've got nothing. This is the dessert or like the mainest of the courses or something. This is where we're ending with Varginha. And I think it's now my favorite UFO story.
Ever?
Ever? I think so.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
I'm excited. Guys, are you excited? We made it. Oh my gosh.
We're here.
We're here.
And this month, there was a documentary that came out about it, which was very convenient for me. It's called Moment of Contact, and it's directed by James Fox. Have you heard of him? He did Phenomenon.
I have. He did some research into episode 1's topic of the Zimbabwe. Okay. Yeah, he was there. He did a lot of interviews. He knows a lot about that specific case. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and listen to episode 1.
Yep. We have a whole fucking archive now to reference.
We do. We've referenced a lot of our past episodes in this episode.
So, Varginha.
Varginha.
It's considered Brazil's Roswell, and it is fucking crazy. This is 1996. And not only was there an alleged UFO crash in the city, but there are stories of little guys running around in the city. We've got little guys in the city.
Oh my God. Wait, how tiny?
4 to 5 feet, I think.
Oh, boy.
We got little guys. But it gets crazier. And this is where it's hard for me to ignore these stories. The military and Secret Service roll up into town and start to set up barricades.
Why? Why?
Multiple military personnel have actually confessed to having seen the little guys. And one even allegedly captured one of the creatures.
Oh my God. That's all I can say is, oh my God.
Yeah. And what's crazy, like in the documentary, he interviews so many of the people who were there. And normally I think everyone's bullshitting me. It is really hard not to believe these people. So let's get into it. I guess I'll start with the capture, and then we'll kind of reverse a little bit. Well, I guess maybe we'll start with the UFO crash. I don't have a lot to say about the UFO crash. There's a guy who claims that he saw the UFO crash. I can't remember his name, but he saw something crash and kind of come apart like big time. And he apparently had a scrap of metal that would like kind of bend, like fold itself. It was really light. I don't know how to explain it. I didn't find the UFO crash part that interesting, except when he was like with the crew and he tried to find the exact location where it happened. And at first he couldn't really find it, but when he finally found it, like he started crying. Like it was very emotional. So it was very kind of hard to poo-poo that, I guess. But
I can imagine it is emotional because you see this thing and, you know, like anytime I think I've ever heard anybody like witness something like that or similar to that, they get very emotional because it's like an existential crisis, right?
And he says like nobody like believes him, right? And like it's only caused him pain to share this information,
to share it. Yeah. Same with Travis Walton. Sorry, going back to him. Anyway, continue. Sorry, I just keep derailing you with all my excitement.
No. I want to know the things now that I'm a ufologist.
Now that you're a budding ufologist.
Yeah. So I'll start with the most famous sighting, actually, is where I'll start. And it's initially kind of hard to believe for me because it's children. It's 2 young girls who were walking home, and as they're walking home, they see a like cowering creature. And
oh my God. I have the chills already.
You're just wait. It's like 4 to 5 feet tall and pronounced, like kind of big head, maybe even tiny little, not horns, but bumps, and huge red eyes.
Red.
And it like maybe didn't have much of a mouth either. I don't really remember. But what was more interesting to me than the girls saying that they see this, because I have trouble trusting a child's perspective of things just because it's an imaginary time. I don't know. It's when we get to have our biggest imaginations when we're kids, right?
Yeah. Our brains aren't fully formed yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So also I'll say that it was really oily skinned. The skin was really oily and greasy. And they said it looked like it was like too hot. Like it looked like it was suffering and it was too hot and it was scared.
No.
Yeah. So they run home and they go get their mother, and the mom comes back to that area and she says that she sees a footprint with 3 toes in the ground. She doesn't see the thing.
Like a dinosaur?
I guess so.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. 3-toed footprint is what she says. And stranger yet to me is that there's this really overwhelming smell of like, it's like they describe it as worse than like ammonia and sulfur. It's really overwhelming, the smell, and they can't get it out of their noses for days. Like the mom is even like, she's trying to wash out her nose. She even puts alcohol in her nose to try to get this smell out, and it does not work. It's just,
That is hellish. Ew.
It's, disgusting.
Yeah.
And the government disregards this story, saying that like they saw a local homeless man who was covered in mud, who was nicknamed Madinho, or I don't know how to pronounce it.
That sounds fitting. That sounds about right. Yeah. Madinho.
And it's like, I would maybe, if this sighting was the only part of this case, I would maybe go for that because it's a kid's sighting, but it gets crazier.
Oh, I don't even know how it could get crazier, but okay, I'm ready.
Another family comes out with a story, and they didn't tell the story at the time. They tell it later, and they're all blurred out and everything. They don't want their faces on camera because they're like a well-respected family or whatever. But they said that they saw red rotating light overhead that was like hovering for 15 minutes. It was like a silvery sphere looking for something in the neighborhood where this sighting happened. Again, only there for like 15 minutes, but this guy, he's like, this is what I saw. Red lights right overhead. Like, I don't know what it was. And he said a week later, some like American came to ask him about it. And then they said this conversation never happened.
Oh.
Now we're going to get into not civilian sightings, but the capture of the creatures, because the creatures were allegedly captured.
Can I just say, though, that this sounds like, I mean, so far, it sounds like a UFO crashed, a craft crashed, and the beings that were inside of it tried to escape, like, this vehicle that is falling apart, and the environment is not suitable for them. What's interesting is, okay, going back to episode 1 of I'm Scared But I Like It, our podcast, we talked about the mass UFO sighting in Zimbabwe, right?
Mm-hmm.
The accounts of the children that witnessed this, about 60 or so children, most of the descriptions of these beings were so similar. And what they were talking about is that it looked like they had suits on. Mm-hmm. And the way that they described these beings were about children's size, like 3 to 4 feet. So 4 to 5 feet also sounds very similar. Yeah. And that they had like the really big eyes, like they almost didn't have a nose, a very tiny slit for a mouth.
Yeah, that's true.
The red eyes thing from this account is
different,
strange, but I wonder
about the oiliness now.
But I wonder, is it because they had protective suits when they were out, when they go out? But since their vehicle crashed, they weren't able to access those things, and they fled.
Yeah.
and they fled, and they're in this environment that's toxic to them. Like they're sweating. Maybe their eyes are turning like milky and diluted and kind of red. Like
we're going to talk about the sulfur thing at the end of this, and I have my own little theory that's related to that.
Okay, so we're just building up in layers. Okay, okay, go on. Okay.
There's a military guy named Marco. He's just a soldier. He's 23. He allegedly captured one of these creatures and carried it in his arms like a child, and it was greasy and smelly. It had that smell. I think it was dead when he captured it, because, you know, they had come in, they had set up these barricades and everything where this was going on. They already knew that it was going on, apparently. And, you know, he finds it and he brings it to the hospital. He's restricted from talking about it. His sister asks him about it, and he's like, all he says is like, this story is going to be a big deal. And within like 24 hours, he dies. The guy who captured the creature, who held the greasy creature against his body, he had to be admitted to the hospital because he had this unidentified substance on him. And the doctor says that he died from a general infection.
Oh my god. He
deteriorated really quickly. And apparently, I don't know where this information comes from, but the doctor wanted him buried as quickly as possible.
Yeah, probably to stop from further infection or other exposure to whatever it was. Yeah. To contain it. Exactly. That's the word. Yeah. To contain. Holy shit.
Yeah. And this sister is still like, what the fuck? What the fuck, everyone?
It's just crazy that, like, the military was there. They set up barricades. It just sounds like there's just so... It sounds really hard. Oh, my God. Wow,
because there's so many people involved. There's so many people involved, which is insane.
There's so many people, so many witnesses, so many, like the fucking military was involved.
Mm-hmm. And there's another story. Crazy. There's another story of a capture, maybe. It was hard for me to tell what exactly was going on with this story, but the morning before the girls had their sighting, firefighters were called to check out a strange animal that people were seeing further outside the town. And apparently, all I know is that they captured whatever it was, and the firefighters were asked what it was, and they said that it cried like a human child, but they didn't say that it was anything weird.
Oh my God, that gives me the chills.
It's horrific.
That gives me the chills. Oh my God, I feel like crying. That is so creepy.
It's really weird.
But that's all they said? They were just
that's all I have on the
about
firefighter.
it?
Very cryptic.
Wow.
I don't know why the firefighters are like the most cryptic of all the people. But this part really interests me. You know, they talked to a lot of military people, and what seemed to happen was that a steel box at one point was being moved around from hospital to hospital and then to the nearby ESA Army base 20 miles south of the city. One of these times, there were like maybe 10 military people who rolled up in Jeeps, who brought a body bag into one of the regional hospitals. This doctor who was there that day was interviewed, and what he says, and he's, you know, blurred out and everything, but he says that the military people had him do x-rays on this body bag. They did not open the bag. They directed him where they wanted him to x-ray, and they were like watching him the whole time. There were like 4 military people in there with him, and everybody else was outside. And he said that normally, you know, he checks the x-rays to verify them, obviously to make sure that he got a good x-ray or whatever. But this time he did not see the images. And they said, you know, don't comment on what you saw or what you did. Your job here is done. Thank you. And they left with the body bag. The room permeated with this smell that was a mixture of ammonia and sulfur. The whole the whole section of the hospital had to be closed because the smell didn't go away even with cleaning. And the next day it was still there. And he said it was in his respiratory system for 3 to 4 days. Just like the mother said, how they couldn't get it out of the nose. Why? If you're a doctor, to go out of your way to lie about that is so dangerous. why would you lie about this?
There's no reason to lie about something like that. I really don't think so.
Yeah.
Especially if it almost feels like a threat when the military tells you, like, your job is done here. Do not talk about this. It is definitely a threat.
It is a threat, and there are more threats.
Oh, what? So there's more? I thought that was
there's
it.
a little bit more. There's a little bit more.
Oh, I'm just eating this up. Okay.
They also interviewed in the documentary. They interviewed a military guy. They don't name him. He's staying off camera. They've been wanting to have this guy's story like documented for a long time, and he's finally sharing it. And he said that he was summoned for a mission. He was sent to go to Varginha in unmarked vehicles, him and other military people. And the Army's Secret Service was remaining there until further notice. So they all kind of spread out to different locations and went to different hospitals. And he said that they arrived at the back gate of a hospital, came in through the back, and when he came up to whatever room they were going to, there was a box on the table. Doctors were analyzing it, and everyone looked scared. Everyone looked like they didn't know what to do. What he says that he saw was a creature with oily skin, like silicone.
Gosh.
Oily like silicone. He said it had 2-fingered toes.
2.
He says 2. V shape. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he just says that he knew it wasn't human, and that he was scared, and that everything was tense, and that he just felt completely in over his head. He claims that they have footage of this creature within the government. And he said that on January 22nd, he drove the creature to the Army base. He drove the box and transported it to the Army base. And I think the next morning to a different Army base in Campinas. And there are rumors that it was then sent to the United States because they weren't equipped to deal with it. And there is an air traffic controller who also says that a USAF plane came and left on a secret mission that day.
Wow.
What am I supposed to do with this information? What am I supposed to do with this? How do I deal with this?
I'm flabbergasted, to say the least. So
the girls who had the sighting, the mother was confronted by 4 men in black suits. They appeared at the house. They kind of came in and just like entered her home. And they said that she could become very rich if she wanted to, if you tell the kids that they didn't see anything. And they also said the money they brought in the briefcase could only be spent outside of Brazil. So they're telling her to go. What she said, this is the most like badass mother moment. She's just like, I can't tell the girls that they're liars. I can't do that. And so she told these guys to go, or she was going to call the police. And, you know, they were insisting.
She's awesome.
She's so cool.
She's cool.
She sounds like your mom, honestly.
Yeah.
Your mom would do that.
Yeah.
And they were insisting, but then they left all of a sudden. And she said that they were foreigners. They weren't from Brazil. The guy who saw the crash, his name is Carlos. He said that he was at a gas station just like vibing and drinking coffee. And
just vibing.
I mean, he made it sound like he was just relaxing. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
2 men in black suits appear, and they're like, "Are you Carlos, who's married to X, who's the father of X?" And they start like rattling off like all of these details about him and his life, which is very unnerving. And they say to him like, "You didn't see anything. Shut up. Go away. You don't know anything, or things are going to get weird for you. Leave." And apparently they were in a black car with no license plate, and then they left.
That is... I feel like this case... Like, I thought, okay, like, there are a few UFO cases where I thought that was the top tier stuff.
Yeah.
Like Zimbabwe. Episode 1, Phoenix Lights, which I will be doing an episode on in the future. Travis Walton, things like that. But this, I'm just so shocked that I didn't know anything about this because this seems so legit, I guess.
Right?
Like it seems like it.
I don't know how I'm supposed to take this information, especially, I don't know, just seeing them. And I don't trust anybody, but seeing them talk, I'm just like, I don't think you're lying to me. And there's so many people. There's so many people involved in this.
The fact that so many of the traits and the reports are so not similar, but they're very much on point. Yeah. Right? Maybe like the foot thing is the only thing, but maybe he didn't see like a third toe or something, or maybe, I don't know.
I mean, apparently it's like technically better for stories to not line up completely perfectly because we have like imperfect memories and all that. I don't know.
No, that's true, because then it would get even more suspicious. It would be like, oh, maybe they're all in on it. But
yeah,
gosh, that is just so crazy. That's just crazy.
It is crazy.
And I'm going to just be deeply thinking about this for the rest of the day. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Julianne.
I do want to briefly talk about sulfur and ammonia because I found that detail really, really interesting. So I tried looking into it a little bit more. One thing I should say, ball lightning can smell like sulfur. Ball lightning is something that's often tied to UFO sightings, where it's like, oh, it's actually ball lightning. And a lot of the times I think that's true. I'll just put it out there. I don't have any other thoughts on it. I just feel like I should say that.
That we're aware. We know.
We know.
Yeah,
we got it.
We know. But I don't think that has anything to do with, because when they smelled it, it had nothing to do with like a flash or a ball of lightning or any type of light. No.
Yeah. I'm just, my due diligence. An interesting detail that was brought to my attention is that Middle Ages demons often smelled like sulfur. Mm-hmm. You know about this?
Oh yeah, that's one of the common characteristics that people say today when, like ghost hunters and onward, they say one of the key characteristics is like the smell of sulfur. Yeah, so that's been around for a while.
Just because like I'm not going to say I'm an ancient aliens scholar, but I will say that I find it very interesting to take kind of old religious stories and think about them in the sense of like something otherworldly or other dimensionally being perceived within a certain lens, right? Because that's probably what's happening now. We're perceiving something through our specific lens, and it's like, a very not advanced technological society such as ours in the Middle Ages isn't necessarily going to know what to do with certain information. And so that's why I think a lot of stories about like weird angels and demons and stuff are interesting in this context, because like, oh, maybe they were perceiving something different. It makes sense for that to turn into like a religious text or whatever. Sorry, anybody who believes in angels and demons. This is just my take.
Hey, we should all be open to possibilities.
Yeah,
if we close ourselves off to possibilities and to ask questions, then that is dangerous. So don't worry about it. That is such an interesting thought, though. What if what we thought, were so-called angels and demons were something a lot more out of this world,
exactly,
or of the natural form? Yeah.
There's I'll read a quick quote from John Keel, who wrote a book called The Eighth Tower. He's another kind of UFO cryptid high strangeness dude. He wrote, "Ancient dragons, monsters, and demons supposedly reeked with the smell of brimstone, in parentheses, sulfur. Burning sulfur smells like rotten eggs. Modern witnesses often complain that the monsters and some UFOs smelled like rotten eggs. Sometimes the smell is even more rancid and is compared with the wretched stench of marsh gas. Marsh gas is composed of hydrogen and sulfide, methane, and phosphine." So there's that. And I started doing some other research on sulfur, and I found an article from an MIT news blog thing. And they say MIT researchers have found that phosphine is produced by another less abundant life form, anaerobic organisms such as bacteria and microbes that don't require oxygen to thrive. The team found that phosphine cannot be produced in any other way except by these extreme oxygen-averse organisms, making phosphine a pure biosignature, a sign of life, at least of a certain kind. So these researchers are kind of looking at other planets for signs of phosphine being produced because it can be a signal of life. It's not just these planets that have, you know, our fucking sick ass oxygen and whatever the fuck else we have that seems like Earth. If there are extraterrestrials who don't use oxygen and then they're biological creatures who create phosphine, it's very plausible that if one of these creatures was creating that smell and it was suffering, maybe it wasn't equipped biologically to handle the amount of oxygen that we have.
Oh my God. Oh.
Am I right or am I right here? Am I fucking right? MIT is behind me.
My mind is blown, dude. What in the world? That makes a lot of sense right now.
It's adding up. It's all fucking
It's starting to add up.
Yeah.
That is a very, very good hypothesis.
Thank you.
Or theory or whatever.
That's my hypothesis. I didn't get that from any book. That's from my brain and my brain alone. But maybe somebody else also thinks that. I don't know.
I'm sure someone else, some other...
maybe John Keel thinks that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't read his book.
Some other very accomplished ufologist
Yeah.
already figured it out like 20 years ago. And they're like, yeah, what's new? What about it? But,
Yeah, exactly.
But guess what? Whatever. We're budding. We're learning. We're discovering. Yeah. Wow. That is mind-blowing. I feel very speechless this episode.
I understand.
Because all I can do is just listen in awe.
Yeah. It's a lot of odd stuff. And I'll just mention a theory that was brought to my attention, which kind of ties more to... I mean, it ties to any UFO crash, I guess, but it also kind of ties to this earlier stories of like UFOs kind of hovering around and flying off and, you know, beams of light not fully being able to pull something away and, you know, just any UFO interacting with a living being, I guess it really applies to. It's a theory called cryptoterrestrials. Have you heard of this?
No.
No? Okay. It's very interesting. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's heralded by Mac Tony's. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Mac Tony's. There's
a lot of Tonys that come up in this podcast. And we always say it like that. Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Like, I don't know why.
So I'm just going to call him that. But it could be like Tawny's or something like that. But basically, the idea is that what we think of as extraterrestrials are actually remnants of an advanced civilization from long, long, long ago that originated on the Earth. Or, you know, they could have been an outpost for aliens or something like that. But probably like not aliens. And the theory is that these UFOs are crashing so often is because it's like old technology from the advanced society that they don't necessarily... Like, it's like leftovers. Like, it's like the remnants, right? And they can't necessarily make it new. Like, they don't know how to make it new. And so they don't necessarily want to be seen. They just have some oopsie daisies. And it could explain why these vehicles, UFOs, whatever, need lights. Because a spaceship wouldn't necessarily need light in space. You know, like our rockets don't like have headlights on them or whatever. And it could also, I guess, the idea is that like it's humanoid because it has a common ancestor to us. It could be a different species of human or however you phrase it. And they might have trouble reproducing for some reason, which is why some people report like biomaterial being taken from them. It could be to help their own health. If for some reason they're failing, maybe they got so advanced that they engineered their genes too much to like actually be able to reproduce properly anymore. And it could also, they could, you know, because a lot of these sightings or abductions or whatever, they say that they're aliens, they express that could be to get us off their trail, to get us off the scent if they're here on Earth, if they live on Earth with us. and we just don't know where they are. Maybe in the ocean. I don't fucking know what's in the ocean. And they also could be expressing messages of like, take better care of the planet because they live here. And it would be very beneficial to them for us to take better care of the planet. So I just bring this up because I think it's an interesting alternative idea about where these things could be coming from. And it also kind of ties to like lights coming out of the Amazon River and stuff like that rather than from space.
There are so many reports of lights and like flying objects either going shooting up out of the ocean or going into it.
Yeah.
A lot of people reporting seeing like lights under the water, especially off of Catalina Island, which is going to be another episode in the future. That is a very interesting thing, but there is a lot of activity and a lot of reports of activity under the water. So, I mean,
sus.
What a great hiding place, though, if that were
Yes.
true.
Yes.
Because we can't
I'm not
get
going in there. I'm not going under there.
We're not going down there. You know, there's so many places to hide. And, you know, 70, I believe, 70% of our planet is water. Yeah. So, and how deep that actually goes is just unfathomable.
Crazy. Yeah.
So, pretty good idea to go down there if you don't want to be found or seen. Yeah. Or if you really need or if you don't want to get chased down there. Mm-hmm. That'll stop a chase real quick as a huge body of water.
I'm not going in there.
Nope. I'm not going in there.
There are just a lot of things to think about. There are a lot of things to think about. It's hard to know what exactly took place in Brazil during these 3 decades and possibly even beforehand, right? Like, and possibly even now. There's weird stuff going on.
Oh, I'm sure.
What's going on? I don't know.
And why in Brazil? What's so special about Brazil? Like, is that a hot spot? Like, I wonder if there are certain areas of our planet that maybe have certain resources or minerals or materials.
That's interesting, yeah.
That are part of the natural landscape that they are interested in. Yeah. So I wonder why certain places have more activity than while others don't. Brazil seems to be one of them. Africa also seems to be another. I mean, Africa is huge. It's a huge continent. But there does seem to be a lot of activity in Africa as well. And, God, United States, too. There's so many stories that come out of the United States. It's just true. I don't know.
Maybe it's maybe it's everywhere. Reporting. It's just a reporting issue. But yeah, I literally have no rebuttal, no explanation for what the fuck the people of Varginha experience. I have no explanation for what the people of Colares, what they experienced. Mm-hmm. I can't explain it. It's so many people. It's so much shit. And it's weird as fuck. And I don't know what's going on. And I've never been here before and I'm scared. And I don't know if I like it.
I'm scared and I mostly like it, but there's some scary parts like about being burned or about being intimidated by the military. Mm-hmm. I don't like those.
Yeah, I don't
or
like that.
Having your flesh fall off your bones sounds although that was in the appetizers. No.
Very appetizing.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the vibe check personally. Wow. Thank you, Julianne. That was incredible.
You're welcome.
Wow. My mind is blown. Like, you have no idea. You just like changed my life today.
I will put all of the books that I read and the documentary I watched and the interview video. I'll put all of that in the show notes so you all can learn more. Yeah,
do some digging of your own. Let us know if you find any other juicy piece of information that maybe we missed and help blow our minds.
Like I only read probably half of the Jacques Vallée book that I was reading, and I probably read 2/3 of the other book I was reading about Brazil. So like there's a lot there.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface. Yeah. Even though this was huge, it just feels like just the tip of the iceberg. Truly. Which is
doesn't make sense. How is this possible? What's going on?
Yeah. I don't think I don't know. In this season of our podcast, I think this is the episode that blew my mind the most.
Hell yeah. I love that.
I mean, yeah, like even the ones I did, like Menehune, I thought was like, whoa, you know?
Menehune is whoa.
Yeah, it is well, but this is like, holy shit. Yeah. I have nothing else to say except wow. And
I don't either, honestly.
I think I lean more on the believer side than I do the skeptic side for this case. Yeah.
Same. What happened to me?
One.
I don't know.
I don't know. It was enough to turn Julianne around. I don't know. Wow. Welcome to the dark side, I guess.
Thank you.
Well, another day, another episode. That one was awesome. Thank you, Julianne. And if you guys would like to donate to us or support us in any way, we do have a Ko-fi account at I'm Scared But I Like It. Those donations really, really help to support our podcast and to keep this going, to make it better. So if you can spare like a cup of coffee, that'd be so awesome. And then please rate our show. You know, if you think we're really good, give it a nice 5.
Hell
a nice solid 5 stars. A 4-star? Forget about it. How about a 5-star? A 3 to 2 to 1 star? Just don't even bother. You could just do anything else.
Don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time. Or just, just give us more time and we'll improve. And then you can rate us later.
How about you email us your feedback and we'll work on it, okay?
Exactly.
How about that?
How about that? Because the ratings really do help. So we really appreciate anything great, any positive feedback we do care about. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those of you who have rated us already.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have no idea like how grateful we are for that. It makes us feel so good. We're also on Instagram. You can follow us at ISBILIPod, ISBILIPOD. And you can find us on Facebook. If you just type in I'm Scared But I Like It podcast, you will find us. If you have any creepy stories of your own, we are always searching for them. We have like a short story episode every season, or we're going to try to have one every season. So it's never too late to send one in to us. We'd love to read it.
I have one quick note. If you listen on Spotify or on YouTube, I don't know if you knew this, but you do have the ability to set notifications on for any time we release a new episode. YouTube, I think everyone knows about that. But on Spotify as well, you can do that. You can set an alarm. We post every other Thursday, but if you want to get that sweet, sweet notification to make sure you don't miss it right when it drops, you can turn on a notification. That's all. Just wanted to share.
That's a really good point. Please do. If you don't want to miss an episode, please turn on those notifications.
In my opinion, the episodes just get better and better every time.
They do. And I think this was because Julianne and I take turns every episode. And this was Julianne's last episode. The Menehune one was my last one of the season. Mm-hmm. So I really felt like this was such a great way to end our solo investigations, I guess. Our solo research episodes. This was like, we started off really strong with a really crazy UFO case in episode 1, and then we ended. And guys, I had no idea that we were going to end with something like this today. I'm just shocked.
And to be clear, there are 2 more episodes left in the season.
That's correct. Yes.
They're going to just be a little different format. So the next episode is going to be some really fun, scary, shorter stories that we've collected. Yeah. And the final episode is going to be an interview of someone who has had a firsthand experience.
And this firsthand experience takes place in Hawaii. That's all we're going to tell you. But it's juicy. It's a cool. Good one. It's cool. A good one. If you're from Hawaii, and then you probably have heard about this particular legend or story. And the interview is going to just blow your mind. I really think so. So stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, everybody. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Until next time.
See you on the other side, Space Brothers.
Yeah.
See you in the ocean. See you in the ocean. We'll find you in there.
No. Yeah, and by the way, to all the extraterrestrials that listen to this episode today, shout out to you.
Sorry about the oxygen in our atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm sorry we're so toxic to you, and I'm sorry you're so toxic to us.
Yeah,
but
hope we can hang out one day.
Yeah, I hope you can understand English, because I don't know if this all just sounds like code to you or something. Anyway.
All right.
Anyway, whatever. We already said bye. Okay, bye. Bye. Bye.